My family moved to Crystal Lake in 1972. It would have been the summer after my third grade year. So my first year at Central Elementary School, located in the same place that it's been located for all these years, was fourth grade. And my first teacher there was Mr. Rogers. He was a great teacher. I remember him being super tall, and a really nice guy, a good artist at the time too. And I was really interested in art when I was in grade school. I really enjoyed that a lot. But I remember him. I remember that if you got in trouble in his class, you'd have to go sit behind the piano because there was a piano in his classroom. I don't remember too much trouble. I was a goody.
Just sit behind the piano?
I never had to sit behind the piano. I was very straight and narrow throughout my school years. But then after Mr. Rogers, my fifth grade teacher was Ms. Wright at the time. I had her, and then I think of all the teachers I had, my favorite was Mrs. Nichols, and she was my sixth grade teacher. And I just remember her being, one of the kindest teachers that you could ever have. And throughout my grade school time, and this continued well into high school, I was always one of the smaller kids. I was tiny. I remember lamenting that fact, and Mrs. Nichols would continuously reassure me that eventually I would get taller, because I was always worried that I didn't want to be short, and the whole thing. And she continued to reassure me. She was just really a fantastic teacher. At the same time, during my Central Elementary School years, John Hussman was the principal, and Mr. Hussman, he was a firm but fair guy, and the kids really liked him a lot. I actually grew up in the neighborhood of Central Elementary School. I was literally 3 houses down from Central. And it's kind of a cool story because I'm now about a block from Central Elementary School right now. So I literally live within 2 blocks of where I grew up. And so being from the neighborhood, we spent a lot of time on the playground during the summer over at Central School, and we spent a lot of time in the library because those were the things that you could do. And when we would hang out on the playground at Central School, it was like I want to say a gang, but it wasn't a gang in the sense we now know gangs, but it was literally a gang of the kids from the neighborhood, and we would play ball against the wall because the building was not configured anything like it's configured now. And in fact, they had the coolest old gym in that building, Central School. They had a gym that was part of the original construction of the school, and you may know that school was originally a high school, and then it became a grade school when they built the Crystal Lake Central High School a little bit down the road. But the gym was classic old school, like something you'd see on Hoosiers or whatever, where they had a balcony going all the way around the gym. And but yeah, no, the building was fantastic. But Hussman would be at the school a lot during the summer, and so he'd see a gang of like 5 or 6 of us playing wiffle ball or just goofing off. They had in the garage there. They had a pop machine, and Mr. Hussman would call us in from time to time and say, "Hey, you guys want a pop?" And there'd be 6 of us, and we'd get a bottle of root beer from the pop machine because at that time that's all they had. They didn't have cans. Everything was in a bottle. So just a lot of really fond memories of Central School. It was a great place. Mr. Hussman was great. All the teachers were fantastic. as part of being a sixth grader, the promise was that all the sixth grade classes took a trip to George Williams.
Yes.
And we went up to George Williams College. We stayed in cabins right on Lake Geneva. So the whole idea was, you go there, it's just like going to camp,
Yeah.
but and I'm sure our parents had to pay a little bit of something for that, but it was hiking and it was outdoor education, and you were right there by the lake, and it was, everybody looked forward to it, and it was like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And that was all D47. I mean, that was their program, their plan, and it was fantastic. So, like was the case with Central School, Mr. Hussman was the principal when I was there. Same thing at North Junior High. Mr. Bernotis was the principal when I was there. Mr. Bernotis was the principal, Mr. Fetzner was the vice principal, and there's another side connection too, because for most of my time in D47, Bob Blazier was the superintendent of schools. And by the way, Bob Blazier easily was the coolest superintendent of schools that we ever had. I mean, that man was just cool because the kids loved him. And what was even more amazing is that we'd have like a concert, and I remember this vividly from junior high because one of my good friends was in the band at the time, and they had a jazz band concert in the gym at North Junior High, and Bob Blazier came in and played the drums, and he was really good, really good. So, probably one of the things I recall most vividly. He was just a really cool guy, very, very good to the kids. Kids loved him. Fantastic human being. Can't say enough about Bob. It was kind of funny because when my parents moved us to Crystal Lake, we only had one car in the family, and my dad needed it for work. So we moved to where we moved because you could walk anywhere you needed to go. And at the time, downtown Crystal Lake was a little bit different too, because there was a Jewel food store right in downtown Crystal Lake. Where the Starbucks is currently located, there was a Jewel. And so the family would go grocery shopping by my mom packing up the kids and walking to the Jewel with a wagon. And so we'd go to the wagon, she'd get the groceries, put it in the wagon, and we would walk home. So everything was close. So Hussman was perfect, or Central School at the time. It was perfect because it was a block and a half away. And if you're playing outside on the playground, you can hear your parents yelling from your house, which that's how they communicated with us. And so when we were playing at Central School, every kid in the neighborhood had a different way that they would get called. And there were always very strict instructions not to go inside people's houses because, one, they wanted us outside, and two, we wouldn't be able to hear them when they were calling for us. So at my house, we had a bell out in front, and it was very recognizable. You knew when it was you were being called. And you'd say, hey, did somebody hear a bell ringing? And then sure enough, you hear the bell ringing. Okay, I gotta go. Yeah, my experiences there were fantastic. And then you fast forward, and they were equally fantastic experiences for our girls. They went K through 5 to Hussman, and then 6 through 8 to now Bernotis. And it was a great experience, and and it got them to some pretty incredible places too. So, well, my older daughter just graduated law school. She's working as an attorney in Chicago, and she ended up she went to college at University of Wisconsin, and then on to Seattle University Law School. Younger daughter just graduated from Stanford, these are all products of Crystal Lake schools. No private schools for these kids. They got it all from public schools, and it's a pretty, that's a pretty big statement about the school system. We are very blessed here, and in my capacity as mayor, I have said, and I have the added benefit of having gone through the school district and having had my kids go through the school district. And when you're moving back to McHenry County, like we did in 1991, where are you deciding where you're gonna move? Why are you making that decision? Because of the schools. And having had the experiences that I had as a kid and then going through college, I wanted those same experiences for my kids. And it certainly paid off for them, and it will continue to pay off. And I personally believe that School District 47 and School District 155 in tandem, and there's a high level of collaboration between those school districts. I personally believe that they are among our greatest assets in Crystal Lake, because it doesn't matter what kind of amenities the city provides or the park district provides. If you don't have solid schools, you're not going to have anything, because as parents, the most precious things in our lives are our family and our kids. And we will, and especially it's even more so now than ever before, because people have smaller families, and they are so much more active and attentive to what's going on with their kids. We'll do anything for our kids, and if there's a place that I can move to get the very best education for my kids, that's where I'm going. And that's why we have such a great community in Crystal Lake, is because of our schools.